Welcome back, my friends, to an episode of TFT Hyper Roll. Remember, if you liked our last episode of Duo Mode, please let me know in the comments that you want to see more of that, because we're going to go by if you liked it or not. Also, remember, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It's called Mission for Tuition because we are trying to raise money for our son's middle and high school tuition because he has to go to a ridiculously expensive school. That's enough of that. The intro is over. Let's get into this. So I started this game out with a Singed with a bow, but there's really not much a bow is going to do for Singed. So I sell him as soon as I get the chance and then just grab whatever I can to fill out until I see my first augment and I can figure out what champion's augment mix is going to make sense. I find that's the best way to play this mode, is to wait and see what the game tells you to do. And really at this moment, the game is telling me I'm not going to give you a really good clue. It didn't give me a high-cost challenger out of the NPC round, so challenger's heart didn't feel right. Didn't give me a bodyguard, so bodyguard doesn't feel right. That really left me just with the phony frontline, which you really can't go wrong with because it will help your team out, but it is going to need more filling in later on. And because I spent so much time hemming and hawing over which augment to pick up, I kind of missed the opportunity to make anything out of the first round, but I'm able to go through, pick up a couple of scraps in Trundle and an Innovator in Zillion. So I start to have the idea that, you know what, I could go scrap Innovator, and these target dummies will actually work out pretty well in that type of build since it's about having extra things on the board. Since I already have a chain vest and they give me the opportunity to get a giant's belt, y'all know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm picking it up with plans to get it on my tanky character, which is Singed. The other thing it's time to do is to get the extra player on the board. So we add Zillion in, so we get the little Gizmo or Gadget, or the mechanical scarab as they like to call it, to be part of our front line and throw that Sunfire Cape on to Singed. You can quickly see the impact that having the target dummies and Mr. Roboto will do. He distracts Ziggs and takes the full brunt of his ult, while the rest of my team is able to continue cleaning up. We end up just losing Singed, but Ziggs stays focused on her target dummy and we're able to win. I like pairing up Scrap with Innovator, and so with a 2-star Trundle we're able to put him in and then put a single item onto Ezreal, just the bow. As you can see with Scrap, it'll form that into a random full item that contains that component. I find this to be an excellent crossover with Innovator since Ezreal, who you can often get up to 3 stars, is a Scrap/Innovator. And we'll speed you through some of these early fights, but the concept of this build with the Scrap Innovator type thing is to overwhelm teams early with an extra player on the board in the form of Mr. Roboto there, and also with completed items that otherwise wouldn't be completed, such as Ezreal here with his Titan's Resolve. The second augment is a quick no-brainer because we are heading Scrap Innovator and it's giving me a Scrap emblem, so I'm going to take it. Since Heimer has the ability to be a really strong champion, I decide to put the Scrap emblem onto him so that he can ultimately get the advantage of it. Now, since I haven't done a video on it before, let's talk about Scrap for a moment and the way it works. You get to put a component piece on your Scrap champions, and you want it to be something that will be an item that you want it to build into. It also allows you to have a shield across your entire team, so your entire team is benefiting from it and the individual champions are getting a decent item. Now, I found it's important to not just throw any item onto a Scrap champion. You want it to be something within their realm. So we're looking for something like a needlessly large rod or something of that nature to put on Heimer so it can build into an AP item that fits into his kit. And you'll see that in action here. After the NPC round, I'm able to pick up a Tear of the Goddess. That's an awesome item for Heimerdinger because it can build into a lot of things that will work very well into his kit. Then I can go ahead and use the needlessly large rod to create the Rage Blade onto Ezreal and then give him an additional sword so he'll have more damage. So now I have 3 Scrap champions, my Trundle, my Heimerdinger, and my Ezreal, all getting additional items based on that single piece. Now, of course, in a build like this, you are introducing an element of luck that you have no control over. Like, I would not have chosen Hand of Justice for Heimer, but that is one item that a tier can build into. And while Ezreal's item, Spear of Sojin, is good, Trundle's Guardian Angel is not really going to help that much. So you are giving a little more control over to the RNG gods. And with each new round you get a brand new item, but it's not something you can adjust to like you can with Thieves' Gloves. For example, Trundle ends up with the Zeke's Herald, but I couldn't have known that. It was anything a sword could build into. Heimer ends up with a Frozen Heart, which is pretty much useless, and Ezreal got a Bloodthirster, which was great, but he got pulled early and killed. I'm just lucky enough that the team is strong enough, along with the target dummies that took enough damage to finish out this round with a win. For my final augment, I was hoping for a Tome of Traits and the ability to go to 7 Innovators, but I have to settle for the pretty awesome Cybernetic Implants, which will give additional health and damage to champions with an item on them, and since I'm going scraps, that's going to be pretty good. I also grab a Orianna because it will be nice to trigger the Clockwork buff, since that will speed up the entire team. With the addition of Seraphine onto my team, I now also have the 5 Innovators, so my little Scarab has now turned into a giant bear that is able to distract them more, take more damage, and last ultimately longer. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win every single time. As you can see, I'm dispatched pretty easily here by this team of scrappy little Yordles. With Ezreal being in better shape than my Heimer, who hasn't been able to get up to 2 stars, I decide to move him into the spotlight and then give him an additional damage item and load him up with an additional piece of scrap that can turn into something cool. This is one of the difficult moments in a scrap build because you don't know if you're going to be able to get to 6 and get all the scraps, but I'm still holding on to pieces and parts that could be made into full items, so I'm a little bit lacking at times in the amount of power necessary to win these matches. Having not seen the scraps I'm looking for, I decide to just go ahead and lean into Clockwork a little bit. So I pick up Zeke's Herald to add additional speed onto my team, give it to Zilean, and place him in between Ezreal and Echo. And with the game now on the line, my scrappy little team has to come through. Ezreal ends up with an additional Giant Slayer, which allows his attacks to be that much more powerful. I would have preferred getting him up to gold 3-star, but I gotta live with what I get. The additional speed from Clockwork and that Zeke's Herald is certainly helping out, and as you can see, Echo's ult slows down their team just enough to bring them right into the realm of where my Seraphine is going to ult, and Ezreal and Zilean work together to finish off their Orianna and put them out. And even though I really wanted to go to the 6 scrap this game because I got that emblem early on, it just did not seem to be cooperating, so I decided to go into Clockwork and rely on the attack speed that, along with that Rage Blade, is going to be very powerful on Ezreal. This scrappy little band of Yordles had taken me out earlier, but this time I'm able to have enough left on the team to finish them off pretty easily. And I will save you some time and just jump to the moment where it decides to give me another scrap emblem that I had pretty much given up hope for. Even though I changed out some champions and I had 5 scraps, I now have 6, and I'm able to make use of that little extra item on Jinx. That 6th scrap is giving me extra shielding on everyone, including Mr. Roboto the Bear, who is able to hold aggro on things, allowing Jinx and Ezreal to just do a ton of damage. You can see Jinx fly into their backline and just start wrecking things because she becomes incredibly powerful after her ult. In between rounds, I'm able to roll enough and find a silver Jinx, so that Deathblade is going to be even more powerful. Remember, this season, Deathblade is not based on number of kills, but it's based on star level of the champion. So Jinx, with Deathblade, you want her at 2 stars, and she will be incredibly strong. Now I'm rolling and still looking for that final Ezreal, but I find a Jayce who can replace my Singed. In this set, Jayce can be either a frontliner or a backliner. I'm leaving Ezreal in the spotlight because he still has the best items on him. Even though Jinx is really strong, if that Negatron cloak turns into something like that, an Ionic Spark, it just isn't going to be as helpful. And even though Ezreal ended up with a ZZ Rod, he still has the Rage Blade and Giant Slayer to make that spotlight more useful. Overall, you see the power of this comp in that it allows a lot of distractions and your other champions to get in and do the damage necessary to win. Innovator Scrap is very, very strong, especially if you get yourself up to either the 7 Innovators and Summon the Dragon or the 6 Scraps. Hope you enjoyed the video and have an absolutely awesome day.